Um, Next up, we have Scott Corey, and today's theme is patriotism. And so we have Scott, he's a veteran, and he's going to speak to patriotism.
Good afternoon. My name is Scott Corey. I've lived in Plumas County for above a quarter of a century. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I have a bachelor's degree from Claremont McKenna College and a PhD in political science from UC Berkeley. I thank the committee for allowing me a few minutes to speak. I love this country, and I'm here to do my best for it today. I'm going to make the case that left versus right is the wrong framework for our problems. And what we need is patriotic opposition to what I call Brand X authoritarianism. That opposition needs to take the phrase, "one nation indivisible," seriously, and clearly identify what steps we need to take. What is Brand X tyranny? It has three characteristics. Pay attention, there will be a quiz. It is arbitrary. It makes government the exception to all rules all the time, and it operates a gangster economy. Arbitrariness is not just whimsical command. It is an instrument of rule. It trains people to obey, and then it tests their obedience. The second element is called theory of the exception. It's hard to say exceptionalism, so just Brand X. It was invented by a guy named Carl Schmitt, and the goal is to revive absolute monarchy without claiming that it comes from God. The method is to invoke emergency powers on a permanent basis, leaving the outward structure of institutions intact while putting government above the law and the Constitution. Brand X has its supporters in the US, but it really took hold in Russia, where Putin added the third dimension of Brand X, gangster economics. When he first came to power, Russia was run by organized crime, but instead of being a gang buster, he decided to become gangster in chief. Now he relentlessly promotes Brand X, sometimes by persuasion, sometimes by divisive hybrid warfare, such as supporting Black Lives Matter and the anti-vax movement at the same time. Brand X now controls in one degree or another almost a dozen countries around the world. Countries as different as Russia, Venezuela, India, Israel, and Venezuela, and Nicaragua, ruling perhaps half the people in the world. They are winning, democracies are losing, and now it is here. Now the quiz. Mr. Trump has not closed Congress or suspended the Constitution. Instead, he's declared multiple states of emergency. Is this toxic masculinity, feminazism, or Brand X?
Brand X.
J.D. Vance and Stephen Miller both told ICE that it had total immunity from the law when it went into Minnesota. Forgiveness for all crimes in advance of committing them, thus criminalizing law enforcement. They didn't take over the state, and they didn't abolish the law. Is it totalitarianism, anarchy, or Brand X? Mr. Trump hopes to bomb Iran until we forget who Jeffrey Epstein was. Is this defense of the nation, genocide, or Brand X? Mr. Trump kidnapped the president of Venezuela, charging that Maduro only punished drug dealers in order to extort bribes. Then a new dictator was put in, and Mr. Trump got personal control of 30 million barrels of oil. Capitalism, socialism, or gangster economics? Here's one for bonus points. There are 4 choices this time. By intervening in Syria, Libya, and Venezuela, Mr. Putin has prolonged wars and oppression that flood the West with refugees. Are those refugees A problem for the societies in which they arrive? Suffering people deserving of our sympathy, victims of hybrid warfare, or all of the above? All right, you did very well. Will Mr. Trump at least protect his own voters? If so, why did the administration step on the Second Amendment after the shootings in Minnesota, telling us that no one can carry a gun and speak their mind in the street? Why did Donald Trump virtually spit in the face of Charlie Kirk's widow by preaching hate at her husband's memorial after she forgave the murderer in good Christian charity? Why? To prepare us all for the future. Politicians need constituencies. Dictators abuse everyone. Our challenge is not limited to Donald Trump. If he resigned tomorrow, we would still be faced with brand X threat. To fight it, we will need one another. We need to feel our way back to one another. Some people in this country struggle to make our beliefs real in our time, but almost spit on the ground if you say that they're Americans. Others cling to American identity, no matter how savagely our principles are trampled. Enough of this. There are two strands of faith in this country, and they belong together. Our ideals define the United States, and in clinging to American identity means we won't give up on this nation even when it suffers from long and painful sins. These two strands of sentiment are not logically or philosophically related. They are bound together as a whole faith that we as a nation are not just occupying space on this planet. We have committed ourselves as a society to openly join in the universal and unending struggle for justice and freedom, and that is who we are. To those of you who identify with the left, I'll quote Abby Hoffman. Language borrowed from the academic and say, learn to talk American. Language borrowed from the academic left, wokish if you please, is counterproductive. You cannot credibly say there is no shared truth and that every voice claiming victimhood deserves to be privileged above others and allowed to break the rules because the system is trying to keep them down. Donald Trump and Stephen Miller have been using that logic for years. Falsely, yes, but you can't say that they're lying if everyone owns their own truth. You don't need that jargon. When your heart goes out to the suffering and the oppressed, your heart is right. When you speak against injustice, stand on the bedrock principle that we are all equal in dignity. And if someone is not being treated that way, then something has to be fixed. Talk American. To those who identify with the right, I say, strong ain't the same as mean and good ain't the same as weak. You hear yourselves demonized. You're told you will never be forgiven for crimes of people you never knew. In this typhoon of political guilt trips, Donald Trump appears strong, but only because he never chose guilt or shame. People say, at least he's a real man. I have no problem with someone bringing a tough attitude to a tough job, but you can never be a man until you know the difference between strong and mean, and I don't think Donald Trump understands that. Strong ain't the same as mean, and good ain't the same as weak. Again, American identity and American ideals belong together, and we need one another now. Fighting Brand X is very different from opposing Donald Trump. What do we need to do? First, we need to pressure to tighten oversight of the Secret Service to ensure the physical safety of Donald Trump. Why? Because dictatorships are vicious, and he has filled his administration with vipers even he admits he cannot trust. We want democracy, not just a change of tyrants. So we need to surround him with what he hates most, dedicated professional law enforcement. Next, Congress must recover its independence. We can ask them to do this by requiring the digital platforms to enable all cell phones and computers to block anonymous messages. Congress is not paralyzed by partisanship. Congress is terrorized by a flood of anonymous digital threats that Donald Trump turns on them and their families every time they step out of line. Ask Lynn Cheney, ask Marjorie Taylor Greene. Digital terror comes from the top, and it's time for it to stop. Next, we must demand that authorities across the country prepare injunctions to block Mr. Trump from using force to disrupt our elections. Give our military officers solid ground to reject such a betrayal. Their oath is to defend the Constitution. No emergency stands taller than that promise, and here we draw the line. Finally, if state and local law enforcement need to block criminalized federal employees from closing the polls or seizing the ballot boxes, this movement should be ready to back them up, flooding the streets of America with patriots. MAGA is over. We are now living with tar. Trump against the Republic. Well, it's time to get the tar off. Remember to talk American. Remember what strong really is. And together we can get the tar off law enforcement, get the tar off the Defense Department, get the tar off Congress, and get the tar off America. To brand decks everywhere, I say, America will defeat you. Thank you for listening, and may God bless the United States.